This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we started with inheritance. So what is inheritance is the process of creating new classes from existing classes. Then in Java, we use extends keyword to create a new class from existing class. Then, a small question, does Java support multiple inheritance?
No.
No, right?
No.
Java does not support multiple inheritance. In Java, a class can extend only one class. Right? Then, and inheritance is a relationship. So more about this relationship, we'll understand more in tomorrow's class. Then, and we have seen about polymorphism. Polymorphism means many forms, and we are in two types, compile time and runtime. Under compile time, method overloading. Under runtime, method overriding. So in the case of overloading, method name is same, but the signature is different. In the case of overriding, method name is same and even signature is also same, and it is applicable only for subclasses. So today let us move to the next one, how to use constructors in inheritance. How to go with constructors in inheritance. So what is a constructor? Already we know. It's a method whose name is same as class name, used to initialize the object. So let us understand this concept directly with the program. Inheritance demo 3, the third formula. Let us copy the demo2 program. Let us copy this inheritance demo2 program. And since we cannot create same classes in same package, let us create demo3 program in mypack2. So we are creating a new class, inheritance demo3. Under mypack2, paste the code and change the class name to demo3. In this program, we are going to discuss about constructors in inheritance. Constructors in inheritance. Here we are having class base with two data members and with a method input. So instead of input, we want to make use of constructor. So what we have to do, we have to replace this input with what? Base. So a constructor is a method whose name is same as class name. So here this base class constructor is giving value to ij and same display method. Now coming to derived extends base with a data member k, and instead of input, we want to use constructor, hence right here derived. And it is no more called overloaded method now, which is giving value to k, and same display method. Coming to main method, we are creating object of base. Since base class constructor is taking two arguments, let us pass the values 10, 20. Right? So when you say base equal to new base 1020, 1020 will go to these ij arguments. Now the value of ij for B class object is 1020. Calling input is not required now. Then, now when we call the method b.display, it's going to display value of ij as 1020. Coming to derived, when you create derived class object, and since derived class constructor is taking one argument, let us pass the argument as 50. Means the value of k will be now 50. Now when you call d.display, what do you think the output of this program here? What do you think the output of this program? So if I give the same code to you as it is, if I give same code as it is, then what do you think the output of this program when we compile or run the application? So the answer is present in line number 20. If you see the line number 20, what is the answer?
There's an error over there.
Error, right? So that is the answer for this program. So the output, what we should say? Error. So understanding this error is only constructors in inheritance. Okay. So let us understand why we are getting this error. Understand carefully. Whenever we create new derived class object, it goes to derived class constructor. The first statement added to every constructor. The first statement added to every constructor is superior. Add it implicitly. We need not write this line of code. Even you are writing or not writing, Java will write for this. Added implicitly, and this is going to invoke base class default constructor. It's going to invoke what? Base class default constructor. In base class, do you have any default constructor? In base class, do you have default constructor? No, right? Because already there is a parameterized constructor. So when there is a parameterized constructor, then will Java create a default constructor for us? No. That's the point I discussed in constructors. So when a class contains parameterized constructor, or if a class does not contain any constructor, then only default constructor will be created. But here there is already a parameterized constructor. If there is a parameterized constructor, then Java will not create a default constructor for you. Understand carefully. Whenever we create object of derived class, it will go to derived class constructor. The first statement added to every constructor, is super, which is added automatically for us, and which is going to invoke base class default constructor. Since there is already a parameterized constructor over here, default constructor will not be created. Since there is no default constructor in base class, we are getting error here. That's the reason we suggest whenever a class contains parameterized constructor, it is suggested to create a default constructor. Now see, now there is no error now. The error will go off. Now the output will be, since we did not give value to ij, it will take default value 0, 0, and k value will be what? 50. Yes, we are passing 50 as argument. And we run, it's 0, 0, 50. So what is the first point under this? Under constructors inheritance, super is the first statement added to every constructor implicitly, which invokes base class default constructor. It invokes what? Base class default constructor. Now we don't want to go to default constructor. We don't want to invoke default constructor. We want to invoke parameterized constructor. Then how to do is, here you can write super in derived class constructor, write super 30, 40. So this one call explicitly. Won't go automatically, we have to call explicitly. Invokes base class parameterized constructor now. Invokes base class parameterized constructor. We have to call out explicitly. So now when we say derived equal to new derived of 50, 50 goes to k, and the value of ij will become 30, 40, and k will be 50. Now the output will be 30, 40, 50. When we run, the output is 30, 40, 50. So what is the second point here? To call parameterized constructor of base class from derived class constructor, call it explicitly. One more point here. In this display method, if you take this super.display out, and if I use this super.display after displaying k value, then no issues. First, it's going to print k value, after that ij value, no problem. But if I try to do the same thing in the case of constructor, when we use super after this dot k, then we get error. See the error message? Call to constructor call must be first statement. In the case of ordinary methods, super can be anywhere, but in the case of constructors, super must be first statement. What is the next point here? Call to super must be first statement in constructors. Right? Any questions, anyone up here? please recap it one more time because this is not easy one. If you recap one more time, it will be very easy for you. So these are very, very important entry questions. Now, if I create one more object of derived class, if you create one more object of derived class and if you pass 80, means k value will become 80. Now, if you call the method d1.display, the output will be I is 30, j is 40, and k will be what? 80. Because so for d object, the value of ij is 30, 40. For d1 also, the value of ij is 30, 40. Same values because you are hard coding here. So how many derived class objects you create, the value of ij will be always 30, 40 because it is hard coded. So how to avoid hard coding? The suggested way of creating constructor is when you go with a derived class constructor, since derived class contains 3 data members, so we have to go with 3 arguments here. We have to go with 3 arguments. This is the suggested way of creating constructor. So call super I comma j, which invokes base class parameters constructor, and say this dot k equal to k. So this is the suggested way of creating constructors. Now when we create derived class object, pass the values like 60, 70, 80. Now the output will be 60, 70, 80. How to avoid hard coding? By sending data to the method in the form of arguments. Right? 60, 70, 80. Now, so let us go with the next concept, final keyword. Very, very small topic, final keyword. Final keyword can be used for data members. Use it for the following. Variables, means it can be a data member or it can be even local variable also. Even local variable. Methods and classes. So 3 locations we can use final keyword. Let us understand first of all final variable. The meaning of final variable is like it is a constant. It's a constant means the value of the variable cannot be modified. The value of the variable cannot be modified. Like example, if you say your final int max value, the standard what we follow for final variable is capital case. So if I say max value as 100, then in the program if you write max value equal to 200, goes with error. Because once you make a variable as final, we cannot change the value of that variable. They are like constants. One more example, you can say final double pi. The value of pi is always 1.14, 3.14. So whenever you want to go with some constant variables, we use a keyword before variable final. Final method. Final method. It cannot be overridden. We cannot override final methods. Like if you take class base with a method xxx. Take class derived which extends base, and if you take a method here void xxx, then this will become what? Overridden method. This is overridden method. Now when we use final keyword for base class method, then we cannot override final method. So if you try to override, goes with error. Next one, final class. Final class. It cannot be subclassed. We cannot create subclasses for final classes. Like example, if you take final class base, and if you create class derived extends base, goes with error, because since base is final, we cannot create subclasses. In Java, we are having some predefined final classes. In Java, we are having predefined final classes. They are system, string, math, byte, short, character, integer, long, float, double, and boolean. This last 8 classes we call with a special name wrapper classes. With a special name wrapper classes. So in day after tomorrow's class, I'll be discussing more what is the need of these wrapper classes. So minimum these classes we should remember as final, because during your exams or interviews they'll ask a question, what is the output? If you take a class something like sample extends string, immediately we should say error, because string is final, cannot be subclassed. String is final, cannot be subclassed. Okay, clear up everyone about final keyword? No. Let us go with the next one, inner classes. All small topics today. Inner classes. The meaning of inner class is a class within a class is called as inner class. Like example, if you take a class outer, inside class outer, if you create one more class inner, this only we call inner class. Let us understand with the program. Inner demo. Right click on project and say new class, inner demo, main method. Let us create a class outer with a data member m whose value is some 10. Let us create one more class inner with a method do stuff. The method. Now in this method, we'll print the value of m here. We'll print the value of m. Okay. Now the objective with now is we want to call do stuff method. How to call do stuff method? Only inner class object can call do stuff method. So how to create object of inner class? That's the main point here to understand here. How to create object of inner class is like this: outer dot inner object equal to new outer. First we have to create object of outer. Using this we have to create object of inner. How to create object of inner class? Outer dot inner, the object name equal to new outer first, object of outer, then using that only we can create object of inner. Now by using this inner object we can call the do stuff method. When we run, simply we get m as 10 here. The next important topic of today's class is access modifiers. In Java, we are having totally 4 access modifiers. They are private, default. When I say default, no need to specify. We are not using any specifier, it is automatically default, protected, and public. So these are the 4 access modifiers. We are having non-access modifiers also. Non-access modifiers are like static, final, abstract, synchronized, transient. So already we discussed about static and final. Tomorrow we go with abstract keyword, synchronized when we come to multi-threading, transient when we come to IO package. Now, one important note, only final modifier is allowed for local variables. Out of all these modifiers, only which modifier is allowed for local variables? Only final. Okay. Remaining all are not allowed for local variables. Now let us understand this one by one. Let us go with first private. A class cannot be private. A class cannot be private. Means if you take a keyword private class, my class goes with error. Where we can use private keyword? Private keyword can be used for data members, methods, and inner classes. These three locations we can use private keyword. What is the use of private keyword? Private members are accessible only within the same class. Private members are accessible where? Only within the same class. This is the major point to remember. Like example, if you take a class, my class, or if you take class A with a private data member int n. Now, if you take a method xxx, in this method xxx, if you give value to n, since it belongs to same class, this is valid only. This is valid. We can access within the same class. Now, if you create one more class B, if you create one more class B, inside this class B, if you take a method y, inside y method, to create object of a class, and using this object, if you try to access any variable, goes with error because n is not visible. It will say the message n is not visible because of private. So when I make a data member as private, what it means? It is accessible only within the same class. So if you take a private variable inside a class, if you take a private member, if you are trying to access in the same class, no problem, it is valid. But if you try to access outside of class, it goes with error. So private is only within same class. Default. A class can be default. Class can be default. Then accessible only within the same package. It is package level scope. Like example, if you take a package pack1 with class A, here we are going with a property n, with a data member n. This is, if you are not using any keyword before the variable, it takes default specifier. If you take one more class B, and in class B, let us go with a method xxx. In xxx method, we are creating object of a class. Using object of a, if you try to give value to n, this is valid only. This is valid only because this B class belongs to same package. So both A and B belongs to same package. When you make a member as default, where it is accessible within same package, no problem. Now, if you create one more package, pack2, and if you create a class C, inside class C, if you take a method y, and in this y method, we are creating object of a class. Now using this object, if you try to give value to n, we get error first of all in this line, because since A is a class belongs to pack1, whenever we want to use a class of one package into another package, what we need to do? Import. We need to write import pack1.a. Now we get error here also because we can access only public classes. We can, if I want to use a class of one package into another, the class must be what here? Public. Now we get error in this line here. Thus, n is not visible because of what? Default. So when you make a member as default, we can use it only within the same package. If I try to use outside of another package, it will go with what? Error. Let me show this. If you remember, in my pack1 we have created calculator.java. In my pack2 we have created calculator test.java. In calculator class, if I remove public keyword, then what it is? Default. What it is now? Default. Now, once I save it, immediately we get errors here. Immediately we are getting error under add method. See the error message? The method add from type calculator is not visible. Because default means only within same package we can access. If I try to use outside of package, goes with error. And it is asking you to change it to public here. If you just click here, it will add public keyword automatically. Here all of you, any questions? So very important but very simple. If you just recap it, it's very easy to understand access modifiers.
Could you repeat that example?
Which one? This one? This example?
No, just the coding.
This one. See here.
Yeah.
Already we have discussed this program when I discussed the packages. So in pack1 we have created calculator class. In pack2 we have created calculator test class. In pack1, if I remove this public keyword, then what is the access modifier given to add method? Default, because no specifier means default. Can I use this default method in another package? No. That's a topic. So once I save it, it's not allowing to call this add method, going with errors here. Because once you make it default, only same package can access, other package we cannot access. That's the concept what we are discussing here. Clear, Hafiz?
Yes, thanks.
Right? And next one, protected. A class cannot be protected. If I use protected keyword for a class, goes with error. Then where we can use protected? Protected keyword is used for data members, methods, and inner classes. Protected members, this is the major point. Protected members are accessible within the same package and subclass of another package. So what is the difference between default and protected? Default only within same package, whereas protected even subclass of another package. Like example. We are having pack1 with class A, and let us add a keyword here, protected. So when I say protected, we can access within same package. We are in the same package, no problem. But if I try to use this protected member outside of package, goes with error, because protected cannot be used in non-subclasses. Since C is a non-subclass of A, so we cannot use it. But if you create a class D, extends A. So D is what? It's a subclass of A. D is subclass of A. In this, if you take a method z, and here if you try to give value to n variable, this is valid only, because protected member can be used within same package and even subclass of another package also. Non-subclass we cannot use, right? A very small difference. public. A class can be public and accessible everywhere, no restrictions at all. Accessible everywhere, no restrictions. We're having some more points on public keyword. That is, if the class is public, then the name of the source code file should be same as the class name. Means if you go with a public class, my class, compulsory the file name should be myclass.java only. Compulsory the file name should be what? myclass.java. Let me prove here. If you take a public class as calculator1, see immediately we get error. Because when you make a class as public, the file name also should be calculator1.java only. See here. The public type calculator1 must be defined in its own file. Rename the file to calculator1.java. Okay. So if the class is not public, we can save the file with any name. One more point. In a source code file, we can have only one public class. In a source code file, we can have what? Only one public class like this. If we take public class A, then what should be the file name compulsory? A.java. If you create one more public class here, then what should be the name of the file? If you save it as A.java, it will say B is public, save as B.java. If you say B.java, it will say A is public, save as A.java. So having multiple classes in one source code file goes with what? Error. Right? What is the summary on access modifiers? What to remember? When we say private, accessible only within the same class. Default, accessible only within the same package. Protected, accessible within same package plus subclass of another package. Then public, accessible everywhere, no restrictions. So these points are important to remember. Got it, everyone? Any questions? Now let us move to the next one. Last one, encapsulation. Let me define this first. The wrapping up of, wrapping means binding. The wrapping up of data members and methods together into a container called class. So where we keep data members and methods inside a class. And by providing security to data. And by providing security to data is called as encapsulation. Mainly encapsulation means security to data only. Let me elaborate more. If you take a class employee, and in this we are going with a data member H. Now we want to give value to H data member. I want to give value to what? H data member. If I want to give value to H data member outside of class, we have to create object of your class. Then after creating object, using this object, now we can give value to age. We are giving value to age as 20. Let us take a method called setAge, which takes a as argument, and here in this one we'll say age equal to a. Outside of class, by using object we can call setAge method and we can pass 30. What is going to happen now? This 30 will go and store into a, which is given to age data member. Now, in this piece of code, how many ways we are using to give value to age data member? How many ways we are using to give value to age data member in this piece of code?
Please repeat the question again.
In this piece of code, in this code, how many ways we are using, how many different ways we are using to give value to age data member?
Two.
Two ways. Two ways, because that is directly accessing age data member and using setAge method. So I'm able to give value to age directly by using here, by using object, and one more by using setAge method. Now, if I make this data member as private, then will this line of code goes with error?
Yes.
Right? Because private is used only within same class, outside we cannot use. So how many ways we are using now to give value to age data member in this code?
One.
Only one way, using the method. Only using method we are giving. So making data members as private, and giving the value to data member using methods. This type of coding only we say encapsulation.
So
Where
we
we
are
get
just giving a kind of sorry, just want to
protection.
can I ask a question? Sorry for
Yeah,
jump
yes,
up.
please.
Okay, so we are just like accessing the private since we have the integer here for is as integer, right? So in this case, like we are putting that data type a layer, and that's why we're calling this as an encapsulation.
No, private is encapsulation, not a data type.
No. I understand. Like I'm saying, like I mean, by using the private word, we're making as the
Secure.
encapsulation. I get that,
Yeah, right.
but
Right.
we are putting that layer since we want to keep that data private.
Yeah. So let me elaborate totally, then you will understand. After that, your query will be completed. So still the topic is not over. Okay, please.
Okay.
So just I said, whenever we use private keyword for data member and giving value to data member using method, this type of coding, whatever the data type it may be, we are not worried here. So making data members as private and giving the value to data member using method, such type of coding only I said encapsulation, where we get security. How we get security, let us understand. How we get security, let us see now. If I remove private, can we access age directly now? Can we access age directly? Yes, right? Can we access age directly if I remove private? Yes. Then when you are able to access this age directly, can we store a value -20? Is it syntactically correct? In integer, can we store positives and negatives? Yes, right? In integer, we can store what? Positives and negatives. So this is valid only. So this is valid. But according to us, can age go with negative values? No. But in this piece of code, I'm able to even store negative values. That means this age data member is not secured, not protected to store valid data. Whatever the value you want to store, we are able to store. Then how to give protection to this age data member to store only valid data? How to provide security? Simply by using private keyword. So when you say private, now we have to give value to age only using method. And the advantage of method is the value what you pass to this a argument, we can check it here. If the value of a is greater than or equal to 18, and if that a value is less than or equal to 60, then only we give that a value to age, else we'll say invalid age. We'll go with what message? Invalid age. Now by seeing this code, is this age data member protected, secured to store only valid data now? Yes. So writing the code in this format, that type of coding only encapsulation. Got it everyone? Clear Office?
Sorry, I was in mute. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I get the
Yeah, I can
concept.
hear you. You got the concept, right? Just making data member as private, giving value to data member using methods. Why we have to give using method? Because we can apply the condition in methods. We can write some piece of code to check the conditions.
So
That's the reason. Yes, Office.
it could be like related to this, like uh, I mean, if I just bring that up. So for any other reason, for any company, like we want to save the employer ID or some other private number that we do not want to share with anybody else. So in this case, like depend on the security purpose, can we also use this kind of encapsulation?
That is not related because the security part is all those things are internal programming only.
Okay.
So hiding all those things are different concept that is related to
Okay.
databases, the way of programming what we do.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, all right. Right. So please recap these all things today, and tomorrow we'll be going with the next one, like where we discuss about the last concept, abstract classes and interfaces. Then after that, I'm going to discuss the previous class assignments, that is factorial program and prime program, because still I'm waiting for some more people to submit. So let the people submit the assignments. So tomorrow I'm giving time up to tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to discuss the solution of prime program and factorial program. Okay. Then after that we'll be entering into next topic, LAN package, Friday LAN package. Then next week onwards we'll be entering into new topic, exception handling, multi-threading collections, like that goes on. Okay. And from Java OOP assignment, now we can do question 7. Question 7 is based on inheritance. Okay. Only one question. So if we just do question 7, we will be totally clear with inheritance, polymorphism, and how to use constructors in inheritance. All the things are combined in this question 7. Right? Thank you all.